radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah, man. It is. How you doing? How you doing? It is Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. 133 days into the new year. Only 233 days left. Lots of threes in those numbers. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, and north and south. Far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. You know, I just love going through these gifts, that just flood in at the top of the show. You guys are the best, man. I'm just hearting all of them. Just heart. Man, was that did I just see the, I did. Oh, man, you guys are good. You guys are good. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And trust me, you're going to want to go check out all the gifts that everybody posts at the front of the show. Some of these are really good. And is that Thin Lizzy? Oh, man. Well done, Brian. Well done. Who is this? Hold on a minute. Ruby Slippers. Who posted Ruby Slippers? Nobody knows about Ruby Slippers. And they were great. That was a good band. Oh, that was Scott. Yeah, he used to hang out with Ruby Slippers. Yeah. Okay, anyway, I can go completely sideways on everything that was just posted. Great show tonight. Great show last night. More on that in just a minute, but great show tonight. Reuben Langdon is here, and his new series that we talked about last year while he was shooting it, Conversations with Ed. And we're going to be talking about that, Extra Dimensionals. We're going to be talking about that and so much more tonight with Reuben. He's such a talented, not only actor and stuntman and stunt coordinator and editor and director and filmmaker, all of those things, but he's also a heck of a researcher and really understands the UFO subject and other things about our community that he is so committed to. He's a great talent, not only for our community, but for entertainment. He's just great and a wealth of knowledge. So tonight, Reuben Langdon is here. You just kick back. It's going to be a great conversation. If you ever get a chance to go to one of the UFO conferences and you see Reuben running around, you do yourself a favor. Just walk straight up to him and go, dude, what's up? He's really cool, and just if you can, jump into a conversation. And I'm serious too. You've got to do it. If you see Reuben and I talking, walk right up and interrupt and jump in the conversation. Just walk right up. Hey, I need to jump in. I need to jump in right here. Reuben Langdon is with us tonight. Tomorrow night, Jim Peniston is here. And this is going to be a great conversation tomorrow night. When you think about the week that is and was here on Fade to Black, last night with the House, tonight Reuben Langdon, tomorrow night Jim Peniston. Oh man, right? Well, we're going to wrap up tomorrow night with Jim, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm going to throw Jim under the bus a little bit. He shot me a text earlier today, and he said, Jimmy, I expect you to ask me anything. Don't hold back. I on everything that I love. And I wrote him back. I said, man, Jim, it's just you and I having a conversation, man. It's going to be great. It's just us. So that's tomorrow night, and you're not going to want to miss that. Thursday night is another Fader night, and it's open lines all night long. And after the last couple of months that we've had in the UFO community, the last couple of weeks, and the last couple of days, holy crap, what a great night it is going to be on Thursday. Open lines all night long. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Okay? Start right there at JChurchRadio. And not only follow me on Twitter, which is great, but say something, comment, engage. Engage. Do it. I'll respond. I will. I mean, if it's smart. Speaking of smart, last night, I don't even know the title of it. Rita and I stumbled upon a Frank Zappa documentary based on, kind of loosely based on Flo and Eddie, from the Turtles, from the period of like 1970 to 1972. And it was absolutely incredible. 3 hours long. Just an incredible documentary. And it just made me feel smart. Love me some Zappa. Love me some Zappa. The documentary was about him going through band members and how he selected them. And they interviewed everybody that was in the band. Oh, man. Wow, what a great documentary. And like I said, that's where I get all my best material. I steal it. I steal it from Redfern. I steal it from Dolan. Steal it from Langdon. I steal it from Zappa. I do. I really, really do. If you ever get a chance to go and listen to Zappa's One Size Fits All, Joe's Garage, Chic Your Booty, live in New York at the Roxy and more, I think that's what that was called. Go and listen to Overnight Sensations, Tinseltown Rebellion. You go and listen to any of those albums, and you're listening to Fade to Black. You're gonna go listen, and if you're a fan already, but you're gonna go and listen and go, wow, I thought that was a Church original. The stuff that is printed on the back of the Fade to Black t-shirts, right? All the Jimmyisms, they're all stolen from Frank. But I got to admit it. It's cool, right? If I admit it, right? It's all good, right? Okay. I feel better. I feel cleansed. All right. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. We have 2 chat rooms open. One right here on Spreaker. Got it. One at KGRA, The Planet. Got it. We've got everything that's going on over at YouTube. Hello, everybody on YouTube. Facebook. Everybody that's watching right now and listening on Facebook. Hello. I was reading through some of the comments today about the show last night. What an incredible show. More on that in just a minute. The House. And going through Twitter, very cool to see all of this interaction, communication going. And I can't be everywhere at all times. It's impossible, right? It's impossible. I got a show to do. But thank you to everybody that is hanging out. And I promise you that we'll do a night with YouTube. I'll have YouTube up. We should start that. Rita, maybe we should start that Thursday. We'll start that Thursday, like we'll do a YouTube night where I'll have YouTube up instead of Twitter and my email. And then the next night we'll do Facebook. Or maybe we'll do Facebook first and then YouTube. Or maybe Twitter and the Twitter feed and what is going on there with everybody. Maybe just the chat rooms, right? And we'll just do that. Maybe we should do it that way every night of the week. Just shift, right? 4 nights, boom, 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 and go into rotation. Right? Tuesday Tube night or Tuesday Twitter night, right? What rhymes with Facebook? All right. Let's get the show cracking. Got a lot to do tonight. I want you to get your immune system boosted. We all know what's going on right now in the world. Get your immune system boosted. Please go to getthet.com. Check out their specials page. There is a reason that I feel great. My family feels great. Rita feels great. Rita is so energized that I've got text coming in from her right now on 3 screens. She can't stop herself. It is because she feels great. My family feels great. And just go to getthet.com. Use the promo code FADER. Over FADER. You will get free shipping on all orders over $50. Okay, they've got an immune system package right now on their specials page. Go and check it out. And ForbiddenKnowledge.tv, our newest sponsor here on Fade to Black, Billy Carson's new internet TV network. Click on the banners at jimmychurchradio.com for ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Head over there, sign up. You will get a 3-day free trial. River Moon Coffee, we've got the new blend is out, Game Changer. Now, we've got 2 blends that River Moon Coffee is making for you Fader Knots. That's Fade to Black blend and the Game Changer blend. Go over to their Amazon store, click on the banners at jimmychurchradio.com. We've got 2 promo codes because we've got 2 stores that you can go to. One at Amazon. That promo code is Jimmy RMC, no spaces, all caps. Got it? 5% off of your order. It's already discounted, and you're already getting free shipping, right? So there you go. And then over at rivermooncoffee.com, that promo code is F2B Blend. That's F, the number 2, B Blend. F2B Blend, 15% off of your order today. All right. Man, I'm digging all of the Frank Zappa stuff. You guys get Zappa, don't you? You know, Rita said to me last night, she goes, when I was growing up, I might have heard Zappa 3 times, and, over in Europe, it was just a different thing, and, but over here, and I said, oh, you know what, Rita? He was like that everywhere. You had to, because there was no Zappa on the radio. I don't think they played Zappa on the radio till like Valley Girl, and that doesn't even count. And nothing since either, right? Well, anyway, no, the only way you got Zappa is if somebody slipped you the album, right? A bootleg cassette, and you were able to check it out. But there was no Zappa on TV. There was no Zappa on the radio. He was not out there. That was an underground thing. Everything that he did was because he was great, not because the industry supported him. No, that is not the case. Not the case at all. But anyway, Frank Zappa, I'm glad you guys are right there with me. Let's get to the breaking news. Our simulcast of the House last night with The Dark Zone made the Connecticut Post today in an article by Andrew DaRosa. It's very cool. Seriously. You need to check it out. Fade to Black got a mention, and it's a pretty cool article. Now, we've got the links up for the article throughout social media for you to go and read it. Really quick, Rita and others that are listening, if you could repost it right now in Twitter, retweet it, so I can get it up there for everybody to see during the show. But it's a great article. And thank you to not only the Heinzens, but everybody over at the Dark Zone. Last night was very special. More on that in just a minute. And today I saw this headline on Fox News. Thank you, Renee, by the way. That said, Martian rock samples could bring extraterrestrial viruses to Earth. That's the headline. So then you go and click. It seems that former NASA Ames director Scott Hubbard said he is concerned that the future rock samples brought back from Mars will need to be checked and quarantined, as will the astronauts who return from future visits. Quote, this is quoting Hubbard, quote, I have heard from some colleagues in the human space flight area that they can see how, in the current environment, the general public could become more concerned about bringing back some alien microbe, virus, or contamination, end quote. Now, Hubbard, who now teaches aeronautics and astronautics at Stanford University, added that the rock samples brought back by the Perseverance rover will have to be quarantined and treated as though they are the Ebola virus still until proven safe. Now, they will also, he continued, they will also need to be baked at high temperature prior to being safely examined. Now, NASA will launch Perseverance, the unmanned rover, this July 17th, along with the first helicopter drone, all of this to search for extraterrestrial life on the red planet. But that helicopter won't search for anything. It doesn't even have a camera. Moving on. A 19.6. Listen to me. You heard me. A 19.6 ton Chinese rocket slammed into our planet yesterday, and nobody knew about it. That's all. No more news. No, I'm being serious. A 19.6 ton Chinese rocket, the Long March 5B, became the heaviest orbiting thing to fall uncontrolled to Earth in nearly 3 decades. All of this according to Jonathan McDowell, the only person that knew about it, a Harvard astrophysicist and orbital object tracker. The last time a heavier object had an uncontrolled entry was back in 1991 when the 43-ton Salyut 7 Soviet space station re-entered the atmosphere over Argentina. Now, although it was tracked over New York City's Central Park, and I'm not making this up, there is no mention in any press release anywhere today about where it finally crashed. It's not out there, seriously. So, if you know anything, if you've heard anything, please contact me immediately. All of the press releases on every website from every mass media outlet, every one, is a cut and paste job. They all say the exact same thing. I don't know where it came down. Tracked over Central Park, tracked over Colorado Springs, tracked over Hollywood, Florida, and I don't even know how that happens, right? Hollywood, Florida, and which is directly south of Central Park, how it made that turn. That I don't know. But nonetheless, and then eventually over Colorado Springs, where did it come down? Nobody knows. So if you find out, please let me know. Cosmic debris. Very well played, Mark. Well done. All right. Where am I at? The StarWorks UFOs and Artificial Intelligence Conference in Laughlin, Nevada is going down November 5th through the 8th. And I want you to go to StarWorksUSA.com for tickets and info. I'm going to be there. Rita's going to be there. Fade to Black crew. Grant Cameron, Paul Hynek, James Fox, Alan Stivelman, Sid Goldberg, and another great speaker, dozen great speakers. So go and check it out now. StarWorksUSA.com. Today, hold on for a second. Today, it was announced here in Los Angeles that the citywide, countywide lockdown here in Los Angeles is probably going to be extended through July. Very interesting. Okay, so that went down today. we just moved the dates for Disclosure Fest to August 8th. We have 2 other dates available to us, one in September, one in October. Today, to have this extension go out there another 3 months surprised all of us, but nonetheless, it is what it is, and the state of California and the city of Los Angeles are calling the shots here. So to stay updated, I want you to visit disclosurefest.org. As the news breaks and we have information, I'll bring it to you here, and it will also be launched over at disclosurefest.org. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to Rami Malek today, 39 years old, star of Bohemian Rhapsody and Mr. Robot. Steve Winwood today is 72, Ark of the Diver, Traffic, Spencer Davis, Jimi Hendrix. Do you know he played keyboards on Voodoo Child? I bet you didn't know that. That was Steve Winwood. Drummer Eric Singer today is 62. Kiss, Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, Lita Ford, Badlands, Brian May, Gary Moore. Billy Squier today is 70. Blows my mind. Don't Say No from 1981 and Emotions in Motion in 1982, 2 of the biggest rock albums of the decade, and brought arena rock front and center with hits like The Stroke, Lonely as the Night, My Kind of Lover, In the Dark, Rock Me Tonight, Everybody Wants You, and Emotions in Motion. Absolutely incredible run of hits for 2 years with Billy Squier. Don't Say No. This is from memory. Don't quote me on Don't Say No. But I believe that Don't Say No was on the Billboard charts for like 2 years. That's right. Incredible run. Our dead guy's birthday today is George Carlin, 1937 to 2008, died at the age of 71, considered by many to be the greatest stand-up comedian of all time. He put out 14 stand-up comedy specials for HBO in his career and was the first host of Saturday Night Live back in 1975. He was awarded the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2008, right after he passed away. He was the winner of 5 Grammy Awards, and his infamous 7 Dirty Words comedy routine was first performed in 1972. And was central to the 1978 U.S. Supreme Court case FCC versus Pacifica Foundation. And there you go. The thing is, was he the greatest comedian of all time? Maybe. Probably. But he was definitely the greatest stand-up truth teller. On this day in history, 1963, Bob Dylan walks out on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was the appearance that never happened. On May 12, 1963, Dylan walked off the set of the country's highest-rated variety show after network censors rejected the song he planned on performing. Here's your Fader fact. Are you ready? A castrato. A castrato is a male singer castrated in boyhood to retain a soprano or alto voice. The practice of castration was banned in 1903. The last official castrato, Alessandro Morchesi, right, retired from the Sistine Chapel in 1913, though some historians suspect that Domenico Mancini, who sang in the papal choir until 1959, was a secret castrato. And that is your Fader fact. Did you just go, ugh? Right? There you go. All right. Tonight, very special guest, Reuben Langdon. And it's like this. I'm going to get all of this in 5 minutes. All right? So I'm going to drink this River Moon coffee. I'm going to do this fast. If you tuned in last night, you were taking part in a pretty historic show for a lot of reasons. First, we did a simulcast with the Dark Zone in which I got to host their live stream called The House. Now, although simulcasts have happened many times with different types of events, It's actually quite rare when two or more different networks can come together and agree to it. But the Dark Zone was with us from the very beginning, and it shows everyone how cool our community really is. Second, the opportunity for the Fadernauts to meet the Heinzens, the current owners of the Conjuring House, and even take a virtual tour through the home, whether it was with the live stream or on Fade to Black. It was a very unique and singular experience, and one that I really enjoyed doing. I learned so much last night from the Heinzens. And third, although it would have been cool to have the football and the broom fall over, and if you listened and watched last night, you know what I'm talking about, live on the stream and on Fade to Black, something else happened last night when the dad, Corey, revealed to us that he had found a box in the basement that had a drawing in it of a person who had a broken neck with their tongue sticking out. So, this was right before the commercial break, but when we returned, I went back to Corey and asked about the box and the drawing. And I had asked him if he could take us down to the basement so we could check it out. Now, as we made our way down to the basement, I had no idea how significant this box would turn out to be. The drawing wasn't on a piece of paper. No, which is what I was expecting. But a drawing on the box itself inside. Now, of course, I wish everyone listening on Fade to Black could have seen what I had seen on the screen. But for those watching on the live stream, they know why I had the reaction to the sketch like I did. Now, I'm going to reach out to the Dark Zone and the Heinzens to see if we can get screenshots of that very moment, because in a small way, it was history being made. Should I have grabbed my phone and snapped a picture of my monitor at that moment? Sure, maybe. But just like anything else that happened so fast, I was caught up in what was going down. And yes, it was pretty amazing to see. Now, I think that we can expect a lot more in the future about this drawing inside the box because it is very important. We have to ask who drew it, when was it drawn, why was it drawn? The box itself looked quite old. Was it there before the Perrins lived there? Does Andrea Perrin know anything about it, right? There were also more drawings, by the way, and I looked at them briefly when the camera was moving around in the inside, but my attention was focused on the broken neck lady. Now, I say lady because the figure looked like it was wearing a dress, but I'll leave this to others to analyze. But its neck was definitely broken. The person was dead, and the tongue was hanging out. It was most certainly drawn by a child. And we have to ask ourselves, what did this child witness? What was going on in that house? Was it a dream? Was it real? And one last note, the box appeared to be a large toy box. It was about 4 feet long, like 2 feet high, 1.5 feet tall, 1.5 feet deep, 2 feet deep. It was painted white, right? It was covered in dirt on the outside, and its top and bottom were missing. And I don't know if there was a lid on a hinge that wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe it didn't have a hinge lid, whatever. But inside, it was pretty clean. And the drawings themselves are very clear and legible. The broken neck figure in the middle of the other images that were surrounding it were very interesting. And I got to say, it was pretty shocking. Now, today, when I read the article by Andrew DeRosa of the Connecticut Post, I was happy to see that I wasn't the only one who was witnessing something pretty extraordinary. It was pretty amazing. And quoting Andrew directly from his article today, he said, the highlight of the almost 2-hour interview came when the family told church about a box that they had found in the basement, which contained a child's drawing of a hanging woman with a bent neck and her tongue hanging out. When the family showed the drawing to the camera, chills went down my spine again as I stared into the eyes of what is perhaps a child's drawing of a demonic entity, end quote. Now, yeah, I think we can all agree with Andrew. Everyone had chills going down their spines, pretty much all the way to the floor. This is why live radio, and today's version, live streaming, is so cool. You never know what may happen, and most of the time, nothing does. But it's the anticipation that makes things so compelling. And when it does, right, when it goes down like last night, it's bleeping history. If that drawing is any indication about what is happening at the house, the Heinzens have one heck of a paranormal investigation in front of them for years to come. Just ask Andrea Perrin. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, Reuben Langdon, and it's going to be one of those conversations. So you stay right there. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Reuben at, well, Reuben Langdon, right there on Twitter. We've got everything up in the Twitter feed on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Reuben Langdon is here. Conversations with Ed. Extra dimensionals, actually. I like saying Ed. Tomorrow night, Jim Pennison joins us. We're going to be going through Rendlesham and all of the latest news that is going around. Thursday night's another Fader night. Open lines all night long. Tonight, it's all about Reuben Langdon. He joins us to discuss his new series, Interviews with Ed. Each episode focuses on one particular race or collective of beings and or actual beings who channels through a particular person or persons. Now, at a young age, Reuben began his career in Japan as a series regular, acting in the Japanese superhero TV series B Fighter Kabuto. He later relocated to Hong Kong to work alongside the most recognizable names in action, including Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. Eventually, he made his way to Hollywood and worked regularly as an actor and stuntman on the international hit show The Power Rangers. He also made appearances in several blockbuster films, including Charlie's Angels, Spider-Man 2, Ant-Man, and Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And he has been the stunt coordinator and or stuntman in The Office, Dexter, CSI Miami, and many other film, TV, and video game projects. In April and May of 2013, Reuben co-produced the Citizens' Hearing on Disclosure. It included 40 witnesses from 10 different countries testifying in front of 6 former members of the United States Congress on the fact that the world is being engaged by extraterrestrials. His website links are right there over at jimmychurchradio.com, and I would like to welcome back to the show Reuben Langdon. Reuben, good evening, man. How are you?
Good evening, Jimmy. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good. Check this out, Reuben. Not to reveal exactly what we talked about today. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it because it was actually pretty funny. But this tweet just came up in Twitter. Can I read it? You ready?
Sure.
It says, Jimmy, don't do my boy wrong like that. Reuben Langdon also did Devil May Cry Dante.
Yes.
And, it's so
Can't forget that one.
Yeah. Can I tell everybody what I said to you today? Is that cool?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I go, this is a conversation between Reuben and Jimmy. I go, Reuben, what's up? Nothing, Jimmy. What's going on? I said, hey, Reuben, just tell me right now. I want the truth. Do you ever run around the house wearing the Dante wig from Devil May Cry?
And my answer was, if I had one, maybe. I don't know.
It was just so funny, and to see this tweet pop up. We're going to get to. We have so much to discuss tonight, Reuben, and I don't know what that is. Is that you or me? That must have been you.
I don't know. I just lost you for a second there.
Okay, that was you then. Okay, that wasn't me. That was bizarre. Okay, We've got a lot to talk about tonight, and there's a lot of things going on, and the new series right now is a huge hit for you, and congratulations. Conversations with Ed.
Thank you.
But
it's actually called Interviews with Ed.
yeah, Interviews with Ed. How many times have I said?
I am having conversations.
Yes, you are. Interviews with Ed. Is that your career? Okay, your career. You're working. One click on your IMDb page, which everybody in Hollywood does to see who's working and who's not, right? You're working, right? You are a busy guy. You've got stuff going.
Busy, yeah.
Yeah. You've got things going on, not only in the video game world, but in the TV world and stuff. You are working here in Hollywood. You don't have to do what you're doing, right, for this community. Your new TV series and the research and the contributions that you make to all of us here, you don't have to do it. Why do you do it, Reuben?
Well, actually, it's because I can, because of the career, because I am a working man in Hollywood, which means you're only really working a few days a month. But still, that's enough to allocate time so I can do this other work. So I figured, well, I've been blessed with this awesome career to, only have to work a few days a month to pay the bills. I have all this extra time to pursue other projects and follow my passion and make a series like Interview with Ed. I'm truly blessed.
What is it about this community that draws you to it? Because when we look at the dates of the citizens' hearing, we're talking about that's quite a while ago. Was there already an interest in ufology and contact leading up to 2013?
Yeah, actually, in 2007, I had my sighting, which then got me on this path of trying to figure out what happened, which led to going to one of Stephen Greer's events in Arizona, one of his CE5 events, and 3 nights doing that, seeing the lights in the sky, being absolutely convinced that something else was going on. I needed to go deeper.
That were unexplained, and things that were probably running, flying thousands of miles across the sky, thousands of miles an hour. They were just so fast. And there was like 2 lights one night, flashes and quick, like green lights. One of the nights, I forget. I just remember 3 nights. It kind of sealed the deal for me. I'd already done a lot of research, and I had my other sighting, and it sort of put me on this hyper focused road track of, okay, let's figure this stuff out. We gotta know what's going on here. And then shortly after, one thing led to another. I was running. I had a visual effects company in Marina Del Rey at the time. And I had this big space that I opened up once a month, and we had the ET meetup groups, and everybody from Richard Dolan to Linda, Barbara Lamb. We had Yvonne Smith, the usual suspects. We had them all come in as guests and talk about their experiences, talk about the research.
And let me jump in really quick.
Yeah.
I believe I was there.
Did you show up at one of those?
Yeah. It was a sound stage in the back of another, like a shopping mall off of Lincoln, right?
Yeah, yep. That was my office.
That was yours. That place was gorgeous, man. It was big.
Yeah.
I was there.
You made it over.
Yeah, I was there for who was there that night? I think it was Yvonne Smith, actually. Okay. And Dr. Lear spoke.
Yes, that's right. And Dr. Lear was a regular. He was awesome.
He died right after that.
Yeah. Shortly, we did that for how many years? 3 years, and then I packed up and moved across the country over to Atlanta because that's where the film business was sort of taking off, and that's what was fully paying the bills back then. So while in Atlanta is when, or just before I moved to Atlanta, right after the citizen hearing, I started filming for my series. And it was there that I spent the time in editing and really sort of solidified the idea. But I had been exposed to this world really for a decade now, for, well, more than that, 2007, but really, really hardcore researching for the past 10 years.
And you also worked on Star Trek Continues.
I did. I worked on Star Trek Continues. I was a stunt coordinator, and I played a red shirt that didn't die.
You played a red shirt that didn't die. And it's so
Exactly.
funny how small this circle is in Hollywood, because we've had everybody on Star Trek Continues on the show. I've also had them over at Coast to Coast as well. But that being said, the interest of what is going on in this community is also happening with everybody else, including you and your friends, isn't it?
It is. It's funny. When I first met Vic, we would go. I'm often at the same sort of anime comic book conventions that he goes to.
Mm-hmm.
We frequent that circle, and I had just come out of the citizen hearing and doing it, and I had a DVD box set, and I gave it to Vic, and he said, "Reuben, you got to come hang out with me. We're doing Star Trek." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" I had no idea what it was. He's like, "Yeah, come help me do this thing." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." So it was interesting, the synchronicities of the timing. And I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I love the show, from watching the old 60s version with my mom when I was little, on our black and white TV set, to, the new generation, to, I'm a big fan of Discovery. I love they brought back a lot of, especially season 2, brought back a lot of the old feeling and energy of the original.
Yeah, Vic and the whole crew over there at Star Trek Continues, their dedication to the original series and its feel and its vibe, and the technical stuff, the look and the music and the editing is second to none. It is absolutely perfect and perfection based. But it's Vic doing Captain Kirk, which has got to be one of the most difficult roles anybody could handle. First off, you're going to have people come at you. You're going to have extreme criticism. And the second thing is you've got a choice. Do you do Captain Kirk, or do you do the vibe of Captain Kirk? And that's what he conquered. He's got the vibe of Kirk.
He did.
And after
he really pulled it off.
He pulled it off.
It was amazing. And to be a part of, I feel, in a sense that's going down in history. It's a part of, obviously not like the first one, but in a sense, the fans certainly love it. I had a great time being a part of it. Made so many good friends. We still hang out and talk to each other now. So it was a good little run there.
Yeah. You get so immersed into it. After, you get like 15 minutes into the first episode, and then you forget that.
You forget.
You totally forget.
Totally.
You are in it.
You get sick.
You are in it. Now, let's continue this conversation, actually, because when the citizen hearing, and it's hard to comprehend that we are talking now 7, almost 8 years ago, right? Okay.
Right. Yep.
And how far things have come since then. For you, Reuben, have they come far enough, or did you think that maybe we would be further today? What's your feeling?
That's an interesting question, because when I was in it, when we were producing the citizen hearing in Washington, D.C., doing the, in front of former members of Congress, and talking about the subject, and having some publication, not really, not a whole lot. The New York Times gave us like the back page, and it was like the first time in the Times history that they even wrote about the subject in a positive, semi-positive manner. It wasn't until 2017 until they did the full front page deal. So at that time, I thought, this is it. We're going to have disclosure. This is going to be a big thing. And then when that sort of finished, it was like, what? How come we just had 5 days at the National Press Club, former members of Congress. It was incredible testimony. What's going on? How come nobody's talking about this? How come the media basically shunned us? What did we do wrong? What's the deal here? This is the biggest news ever. And then I soon realized the paradigm, the truth embargo, and the paradigm that the media has to play in all of this. And even though it was brought up during the hearings, Dolan and Greer and many others, Danny Sheehan, they all talked about the media embargo, but I didn't fully grasp it at the time. So it took me sort of going into recluse. So shortly after the hearings, moving to Atlanta, I sort of gave up the studio, left it with my partners, and I was kind of like trying to literally run away from Hollywood, run away from LA and sort of start this new life. I was working on the film Ant-Man. And then I started going deeper with these interviews and talking to the channels, talking to the people who channel these entities and asking these bigger, deeper questions to try to really understand the construct of reality and understand what's going on here. And I got a better understanding. So at that time in 2013, I had some expectations. They were sort of blown out. And then since then, I've been doing this inner work, more of a spiritual path of, while simultaneously trying to usher along disclosure, but doing it in a different way, sort of Aikidoing the usual, evidence-based material and sort of looking for a different avenue. And through these interviews, I found a much deeper, broader spectrum, visual understand. Like I say visual, but sort of expanding my vision and understanding things in a multidimensional way, really. And then I was able to not be upset. So where we are right now doesn't surprise me. It's exciting because we're still getting the trickles. Anybody who's been in this knows that there's much, much more than just To the Stars Academy and 3 videos from the Pentagon. We know there's way more,
right?
And all the guests you've had on your show. So, is it happening fast enough? It's actually, from my understanding right now, we're right on time. This is exactly how it's supposed to play out.
Now, there is probably nothing more vicious than Hollywood and trying to get a gig, right? And you know what I'm talking about. It is. Oh, yeah. It is competitive. It doesn't matter if you're a stunt coordinator, a director, a second director, right? Production, makeup, costumes, camera, lighting, audio. All of this,
everybody wants your job.
Everybody wants your gig. It is vicious, gnarly, nasty. You're swimming with sharks, no question about it. And as warmed up to this as you were, getting into the field of ufology, you probably thought it was a safer environment. It isn't. It isn't, is it?
Well, it's a little bit safer, but yeah, no, there's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of, there's a lot of, like our good friend Adam Apollo said, it's a minefield of disinformation, and you have to navigate it carefully.
You have to. And after the citizens' hearing, because now you bring on 40 of the most credible witnesses from all parts of society, in the military and so forth, forward. They come forward. You've got 6 former members of Congress sitting there as judge and jury, right, to absorb all of this. You've got witnesses from 10 different countries, and you would have thought that that was enough. It's after the citizens' hearing, it's everything else that ends up happening to you, right? Where you think that, if I'm understanding you correctly, that this is it, this should be it. And instead, it was the opposite. And there is a lot of fighting, and there's a lot of backstabbing and finger pointing and opinions, including critics of the citizens' hearing on disclosure, when all you did was put your best foot forward, right?
Oh yeah, I put everything I had into that. That was quite the experience. I have no regrets. I'm so glad I went through it, but. Yeah, there's still, overall, though, the citizen hearing, I think, to date is still this monumental event for the community, right? In the general populace, most people have no idea what it is and don't really, even if you point it out, they're like, wow, this is pretty impressive. This happened. I'm like, yeah, how come nobody knows about it? Well, unfortunately, that's the truth embargo that we have on the media. But the awareness now, 7 years later, is now more there than ever. So maybe now is the time. Maybe now is the time to do a citizen hearing or to release the citizen hearing, possibly. So I think time will tell.
Well, how is your overall view changed, or has it stayed the same when you go from your original sighting, then to Greer and a CE5 protocol setting, through the citizens hearing and collecting this data and doing your research to where you are today? How has your view changed on the subject of what ETs even could be?
Oh man, it's went, from A to Z, and then, many other alphabets that we don't have and have. Danny Sheehan in the citizen hearing actually says it the best. And for many people who are into this information, for me, the ET pill, so to say, was the red pill, was my gateway drug to what is reality, right? To really sort of shake it up. You go along in life and you sort of see things, you see the world through a lens. We're told at school, this is got to get a job, you got to go do this, learn your math, all that good stuff. And you kind of just go along with, I had my passion with action films. I trained hard. I worked with the best. Great time, no regrets whatsoever. I've had an amazing life and amazing people to work with and experience things. But the ET pill, to me, is really it's reshaped my entire worldview of how I see the world. I see the world through a different lens, and that it's constantly evolving from the lens I saw it, just knowing that we're not alone in the universe or even on this planet in 2013, to now having indirect conversations through interviews with Ed, but now having my own telepathic communications with entities and consciousnesses that I can connect directly with. So I've went from, action stuntman who really didn't have a spiritual bone in his body to, meditating, to Qigong, and now to telepathic communication with extraterrestrials. It's been a gradual experience. I just, many people have their aha moments. I guess just having seen those things in the sky was my aha moment. But I've learned to develop these skills. I've learned that anybody can become telepathic, that anybody can have contact if they seek it out. And that has been, I guess, the biggest, the widest gamut. And then seeing the world through a different lens, as far as the political state of things, the economical state of things, the geopolitical, like all of it. Like, you understand why we're in the situation we're in if you do research in the UFO arena. You really understand the bigger picture of all, I think, all of it. You don't even have to go into the politics and stuff, because you can sort of use that same model of the truth embargo. Why is it being secret? What is this press? Why is the press not talking more about this? And just uncovering that UFO aspect, you can sort of apply that on a bigger scale, the micro and the macro, to understand, oh, this is how the entire world works with international banking and all that goofiness, the pandemic and all that fun stuff.
Is it a combination of the original UFO hypothesis, the nuts and bolts, the flying saucer, the silver disc, little green men, and an interdimensional, entangled aspect of it that may be, a parallel world multiverse situation where it's not necessarily a nuts and bolts craft with an engine, traveling the stars? Is it just a combination of the both?
I think it is a combination, but I think it's also our language. And we as a human race, as we are evolving, so is our language and our understanding of what is reality. So therefore, this idea of ETs evolves with us, evolves with our language. And I think they always were extra dimensional. We just didn't have the terminology or understanding collectively as a species to fully understand that. So you have even the earlier accounts of these beings coming down. They point to the stars because that's the closest rendition or the closest thing that we understand at that time. Now that we understand, the famous Nikola Tesla quote, when you think in terms of what is reality, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And if we know everything is a vibrational frequency, which we've heard a million times, but when you really understand that, and the ETs are pointing, a Palladian being is pointing to the Pleiades star system, they're simply doing that as a reference point because it holds the similar or same vibrational frequency as the archetypal energy of the Pleiades that we have through our storytelling and everything else. So as we're evolving through our language, we're finding better ways to define what this experience is. So yes, it is nuts and bolts because that's the limited language that we had in the past. But as we're expanding our language now, we're understanding that it's much, much more and deeper than just nuts and bolts, ships flying around and flying saucers. There's a interdimensional component that beings do travel through ships, but there's also a telepathic, telepathic communication aspect to it. There's an archetypal, our native cultures have described this. There's this archetypal energy frequency to it. So it's evolving. It's constantly changing. And by the time they actually physically land here collectively where we can all experience it, I think that experience is going to be vastly different than what we're projecting right now as a collective, because we're only seeing what we can see right now. And if our future projection of what is now is going to change 10 years from now, because we're going to evolve in whatever direction we decide to evolve in. And we're going to have a vastly different perception or idea of what 10 years from that future is compared to right now, what is 10 years or 20 years into the future.
Yeah, we have
moving.
Yeah, we have a very limited understanding, or or lack of understanding. We what
Sure.
I mean? We really don't have any idea what we are dealing with, and there's no reason to think that we should understand. How could we? Right? Any more than a dog can understand.
I would argue that a little bit.
Yeah, you think so? Why is that?
I think it's because what we do. So in my show, I'm talking to a lot of and you've had many of them on your show, of the channelers, Daryl Anka being one of the most popular.
Sure.
So these people are able to tune in to, I'm sure Daryl's described this, like a radio box set or a TV set that can tune into these frequencies that are playing through the cosmic, broadcaster. And if you have the right signal, you can just simply shift from watching, all the hundreds of thousands of cable channels. You can just flip the channel pretty easily, and then you get you're still the Daryl Ankel, the vessel, but you're able to tune into the Bashar channel. And then I think this is giving this, the more people that we have these conversations, like I'm having with, that have this ability, and sort of my goal with the show is to reach out to as many of these intuitives, channels, people that I can access, and try to fit together this puzzle, finding out what everybody's saying. Because yes, they're slightly different, but there's a bigger, fuller picture that seems to connect the dots. All of these channelers, even the quantum researchers, the ufology, all of it. There's a big picture that's been coming together. And ultimately, I can't say with absolute confidence that, yes, this is it. But the more research I do and the more in depth I go, the more I'm finding out that there is a sort of a universal, Daryl even says that universal laws. And those universal laws, even though the language or the interpretation may slightly differ from being to being, those laws essentially don't change. They're there. They exist in whichever direction you want to look at it. If you want to look at it through the science direction, through the channel direction, through the religion direction, or the philosophical direction, like these things kind of all come together, and they're the same.
Would your telepathic, for the lack of a better word, it's the word you used, right? But for your telepathic communication that is happening now, would that have happened if you didn't make Ed? Right? Is this something that, would have came and found you anyway?
Yeah. So I don't claim to be a telepathic, intuitive channel or any of that stuff. I have, since diving into this world, I have, and I think I mentioned this in the last time of your show, I've done ayahuasca ceremonies, and I've been able to experience what I believe is telepathic communication in that sense. So I was able to sort of, have get images and send images to other people in the circle, the medicine circle, and they were able to do the same back. So, and later we in the morning after the medicine wore off, we exchanged notes, and sure enough, those images were being sent and received, just as I was sending and receiving them. Later on, I received a download, so to say, from I did an interview with Linda Mullenhow about this. I don't know if it's ever been released, but I had a contact experience from a mantis being, and received these telepathic images and sensations and feelings, and very similar. I can just compare it kind of to that ayahuasca experience. That's the closest thing I can compare it to. Since then, I haven't had any full-on telepathic downloads or images, but I have noticed I'm more intuitive in the sense that, maybe I'm following my gut more, or I'm feeling with my heart more. I'm feeling emotions, and I go into meditations now, and I can try to sense the feelings behind different ideas, concepts, conversations, people, interactions. And when I do that, I seem to have a broader understanding than just the logical mind, than just, critical thinking and these kinds of things. I'm able to go a step deeper and go an extra layer by using some of these techniques that I've learned from over the years from the meditations and from these particular experiences with either with the medicine or this one. It's only happened once. Only happened once in the extreme manner that it happened with this mantis being. So those are sort of my two reference points now that I can use to help build off of and use subtle intuition, right? So I don't know if I answered the questions, but I just wanted to clarify that this has been my path with the, understanding the telepathic communication thing.
Yeah, and so I think you answered the question, but I'm not even worried about that. It's what you said. It's what you said that's more important. Let's focus on this mantis being for a second, because you're very clearly defining who gave you this download. So how do you know? How do you know it was a mantis being?
So I wanted to answer the question now. So the reason. So I was doing the series Interview with Ed. I had started it, and I started asking all these questions to these channelers about different races and the human race and our creation. Where do we come from? Which races make up the human genome? These are all questions that I ask in the show. So yes, I was fully engaged in the show when I had this visitation from this mantis being. And in a sense, I was downloaded images, and it was almost electrical. Like my whole body was vibrating. My teeth were chattering and clacking. I felt kind of sick. I didn't know what was going on. I went to lay down, and then I basically got this information, so I can say, that I interpolated as these images and sensations and everything were happening, as to the human experiment, right? This was a big question that I was asking at the time, where what genomes, what ET races sort of make up the human experience, and why, and what is this all about? And so I got that, as well as other downloads about draconians and different things. And I sort of kept that experience. It was on a lunar eclipse, the night of a lunar eclipse. I had just come back from sort of watching the moon set, or rise, I should say. And then coincidentally, I'd say about 6 months later, I was at the UFO Congress, and I think I was just hanging out. I forget, but Miguel Mendoza and Barbara Lim had released a book called Meet the Hybrids. Right. And they were at the convention, sort of, they were doing a panel or talking about it. And I saw it, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's interesting. These people had some really interesting things to say." And there was two that said they were mantis human hybrids. And I said, "Okay, this is going to be good, because I've had this mantis experience. Who I talked to about this? The only person I knew that knew anything about mantis was Linda Bolton Howell, because she had interviewed these different people about it. So I went and read about them a little bit, but I didn't have much knowledge or know anybody who had knowledge about them, except for these two, Jacqueline Smith and Robert Fullington, who were there at the convention. I ran up to them and I said, "Hey guys, can we do an interview for my show? I've got this thing going." And they said, "Yeah, sure." So I pulled them aside in the morning, not telling them any details. I said, "I think I may have had some mantis experiences, but I'm not quite sure. I just want to know more." So not fully revealing the downloads that I had, I sort of started the interview. And it's a fun interview. It's part of my season 1. And you can see, I start to let on, "Well, I had this experience and they said this." And my mind was blown at how accurately they described the beings, and also how accurately they described them as in accordance to my experience. And then also just some of the messages that they were talking about were very almost the same as the stuff that I was downloaded. So that, again, another confirmation that you're like, okay, I don't remember reading this information out there or hearing it, even though I'm investigating it, exactly the way they're putting it. So there must be something to this whole thing. Maybe they really are mantis human hybrids. At this point now, I do believe that they have been knowing about all the hybrid agendas and everything else. Maybe in not the sense that we understand, genetically altered in the full sense that we understand it, but I do believe they've both been heavily influenced and perhaps altered somewhat genetically to carry that mantis archetype. So they can become a better conduit, a better transfer of that mantis energy. And then later in a couple of weeks, Elizabeth April, who I interviewed, she has a mantis being that she connects with, and that's going to be coming out on my season 2, where I go even more in depth in the mantis thing, because I've had more visitations since then in a more subtle way, more in like dreams and just meditations, not like that full-on experience that I had a few years ago.
And we can continue this after the break, but the consistencies between who is an extra dimensional and how they are connecting in this channel session. What are the consistencies that you see? Is this a pure physics question? You know, is it entanglement across the universe? Is it something more direct than that? I know that Daryl Anka says that Bashar is, you know, on a ship, you know, right outside of Earth's, you know, orbit. You know, it's right here. That's more direct. But everything else, what's the data that you've collected on this?
Do we have time for the break?
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes.
Okay. So I think definitely there is, just like, so Jacqueline and Robert are able to carry that mantis energy brighter than, let's say, someone who doesn't have that DNA upgrade, or like Daryl says, his future version of himself. I think the genetics definitely play a role in how we connect to these other versions of ourselves, essentially. That's what these channelers, I would say, 99% of them are actually connecting, 90, let's give some margin in there for 90% of them are actually connecting to other versions of themselves. And ultimately, when, you know, you understand that all is one, everything is, we're all stardust, we're all connected to the same things. We're all brothers and sisters to some form or fashion, but going down the, you know, the Big Bang and the genetic lines and all the different energies that have split off and done everything else, there's definitely more of a connection with, you know, like Daryl and his counterpart Bashar and, you know, Jacqueline, and to these other beings that have sections of their DNA in us. Perhaps maybe we're carrying that DNA physically, or an archetype, a specific archetype that we resonate with. You know, for example, I very much resonate with the hero archetype, right? So I'm in my many of the roles I play as an actor, you know, I'm the guy that goes and beats up the bad guy, or, you know, saves the day or whatever. That's sort of the typical action role that I play. And then yet I'm living out that role somewhat in real life. You know, I'm investigating, I'm trying to find the truth, and, you know, trying to spread the information to the people. You know, in a sense, it's kind of a hero archetype. I'm not beating up or cutting up demons with my sword, but in real life, but in a way, you know, I'm trying to expose the truth and tell people to, you know, get along, and or help tell people, share that we're all one family here. So that those archetypes, the DNA, we're all interconnected, and it's easier to connect to those versions of ourselves that are sort of within the same frequency and same resonance. And then it just goes further from there. But, you know, we're not locked into being, you know, Daryl is not the only one that can channel Bashar. Bashar has come through other people. So, or I think he says he's the only one right now. But in the past, there's and I've interviewed people who have channeled Bashar in the past. So it's not like it's fixed, but it definitely, there's a resonance that it makes it easier for us to, us all humans who are channelers in our own right, to connect to these energies.
Let's take our break right here, Reuben. Stay right there. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Reuben Langdon. We're talking about his new TV series. It is called Interviews with Ed, Extra Dimensionals. We've got all the links up over at jimmychurchradio.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back. More with Reuben after this short break. Stay with us. back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Reuben Langdon. He's an actor, screenwriter, director, editor, stunt coordinator, stunt person, researcher. I could go on and on, right? I know you're laughing, but
everybody has.
Yeah. It's so much fun to discuss these things with you because of your background, and knowing that you've got to kind of you've got to wear two hats. You've got a serious side of Hollywood, where that's where you're employed, and then this other side. Not to say that it's not serious, but you're going into zones now that aren't necessarily based in a 2D or 3D reality of Earth with your feet on the ground. You have to now, right?
Not the mainstream.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely.
It's not a mainstream type conversation.
It certainly isn't. And when you are doing these interviews, Reuben, have you been in a situation where you were thinking to yourself, okay, you know what? This ain't real. I'm going to continue the interview, but I'm never going to use this material.
There actually has been a few, I think just 2 or 3 interviews that I didn't follow through with. That wasn't not because I didn't think the material was real. The material, I did enough homework beforehand, sort of getting drawn into the material to know that the material was legit. But I sort of use my BS meter, and I say that not in the sense that these people are right or wrong, or the information coming through is not right. But for me, a big part of it is integrity. And I think some of these people, the actual people, if they're not acting out of integrity, if they're not presenting, if they're sort of, have some issues themselves, what happens is that definitely comes through the channel material in a subtle way, because you have to be a clear channel. You have to be tuned in yourself to tune into these higher frequencies. So if you're off, if you're not doing the work, and if you're not of integrity or have alternate motives or whatever, to become famous or whatever it is, and that's fine to become famous, but to do it in a malicious way or just to take money or whatever it is, that's going to come through the channeling, and you're going to connect to an entity or an energy, and we think things as being just one entity, but there are big scales where you can connect to an entity, but this version of that entity, a not so nice version, a version that may want to take advantage of people or put people down, so they can create a hierarchy, so they can, suck their energy or suck their money, essentially.
Right.
Which has happened in the past with some of these bigger, more well-known channels. I won't name names, but I've had, on a small scale, just a few people that I've, over the years doing these interviews, where I've seen maybe not the best integrity. So I've decided not to release it. Not because I didn't think the information wasn't right, but because I just didn't want to send people that direction to those people. I didn't want customers to go there.
And with your travels through Hollywood, does that give you a scale of discernment that most of us can't measure?
I would say so. Early on, being young and a stuntman, and you're willing to sort of do whatever, and you don't really see, actually I don't know if you've mentioned that the documentary Out of Shadows, my good buddy Brad Martin helped produce and direct that with Liz Crokin and Mike Smith. It had, within 4 days, it had 10 million views.
Yeah, we're gonna have those guys on the show. I've now seen the documentary 4 times, and
great,
holy crap! Right? Oh,
yeah,
fuck,
yeah.
Man.
Brad and Mike really did a great job. And
did you guys ever? I wanted to really quick. I wanted to ask you, did you guys ever work together on different films?
Yes. Well, Brad and I worked with Mike a couple of times. He hired me for jobs. Brad and we've been good friends. We've worked on the same project, but not really at the same time. So he brought me in. He actually helped me get on Charlie's Angels back in the day. I was doubling the Thin Man. He was the original double, and then he had to go on another project or something and couldn't make it. So Brad introduced me, and I got to work with Charlie's Angels, which was cool. Thanks to Brad. But at that time, we weren't really into this stuff. And then it started to come out. And then Brad reached out to me and goes, "Hey, Reuben, I've been watching your post, and I think we need to talk." And so we've had some really good conversations over the years about what's going on in the material. And he's more in it for he appreciates my ET stuff, and we like to have dinner and chat about it, but we really get riled up just over the world affairs and the craziness that's going on and with the economy and, all of it.
Now, when we look at something historically, like Jane Roberts, for instance, where you can see, and I'm sure you have, but if anybody in the audience has a chance to go back and watch, it's out there. You can see interviews with Jane Roberts when she's not channeling, and then you can see Jane channeling, and the difference of her personality, right? This thing that happens immediately. And when you hear her speak, normal Jane, she's got a verbiage and a vocabulary and a way of speaking that is her. That's Jane. That's Jane Roberts. And then when she goes into the Seth stuff, her entire, not only demeanor, but it's her vocabulary. It's her diction completely changes and comes from somewhere else. Is that something that you look for when somebody is channeling right there?
Not so much, and actually that doesn't happen as much these days. There are a few people who still do that. That would be the deep trance channeling, and I know Daryl and also Rob Gauthier. They go. What it is they go into a deep state where they kind of black out. They're not aware of what's happening in this world.
That's right.
And then the being comes through and does its thing. They are still conduits. They're still tuned in, have to be tuned in to a certain extent, but they kind of get out of the way so the information can come through clear. And that's when you see these bigger steps and characters. Rob channels is probably my favorite episode. Season 1, it's an interview with Treb Bor-Yitney, a benevolent reptilian. And the character of Treb and the character of Rob are so vastly different, but it's such a joy to watch. And, you're sitting there in front of him, his mannerisms and everything changes, and you're just like, whoa, this is crazy, but it's awesome. And the stuff that he's saying is so much truth. It's so real. But most modern day channelers now, and this is the way it's been explained to me through the channelers and through the channelings, is that because the Earth frequency is rising, so to say, that may not be the right terminology, but that's what we're using right now. It's expanding, it's growing. We're becoming lighter, less dense in our reality of how things work throughout this dense soup. It's kind of like we're in more of like a miso soup where, maybe 20 years ago, we were in a thicker corn soup, corn porridge or something to navigate it. So the other entities had a harder time entering. So they literally needed whatever subject that was going to trans and bring in these entities. They needed them to get out of the way completely and just, okay, you go to sleep, you're out. And then the entity can come in. Now it's because of the lighter density, these entities can sort of ease their way in, and the other person can still be present and aware, but at the same time kind of just take a back seat. And I felt what that felt like in one of my later episodes in season 1. I had Barbara Lamb hypnotize me in a sense. I asked her, I said, "Hey, Barbara, I want to channel. Do you think we can make that happen?" And she was like, "Well, I've never done it before, but let's see." So I asked her to hypnotize me so I could channel something, so I could feel what that's like. And sure enough, it took a little while, but we got there. And I describe it, and this is how many others describe it. It's totally like you're in the backseat of a car. It's like when you're having that conversation with that person and you're in the front seat, it's right there. You can hear everything they say, very clear. But in the back seat, your focus is a little faded now because you might be looking out the window in the back. You can hear the conversation that's happening up front, but it's not your conversation. You're just kind of going along for the ride and you're listening. That's what it felt like when I was channeling. It wasn't even a specific entity. I don't know what it was, but some energy was coming through. It was pretty wild. And that's kind of how more of the modern day channelers sort of describe it. It's like they get out of the way. They're still there, so they can snap out at any time. So it's not like any entity is taking over your body, so to say. They're just kind of getting out of the way so the information can come forward and flow clearly.
What is interesting with that point is for the last 2 years, I've been able to introduce Daryl and Bashar at a couple of conferences.
Conscious Life Expo.
That's right. Oh, were you there?
I was not there, but I did watch the playback.
Okay, you saw the playback. Okay, so check this out.
Yes.
So I've been able to go and have a conversation with Bashar. Right now, remember this. That before each one of those events, Daryl and I are backstage talking and getting things set up and everything is normal. I'm speaking to Daryl. Okay. All right. It's
right.
Daryl. And then, I introduce him. He comes out on stage and then I go out and I'll ask the first couple of questions and have a conversation with him. After both events, and I did it to him again this year, right? So afterwards, a couple hours later, Daryl and I are alone, and I go up to Daryl and I go, "Wow, that was a pretty interesting conversation with Daryl." And he goes, "How was it?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "No, Jimmy, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Dude, I don't remember anything. Your conversation was with Bashar. It wasn't with me." Right. And he is Reuben. He's looking at me straight in my eyeballs when he says this.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to have a conversation with Daryl about the conversation with Bashar and how interesting, but I couldn't because Daryl didn't have any memory because it wasn't his conversation. Now, for everybody out there that's listening right now, that may be tough for you to wrap your head around. But that's exactly what Reuben is saying here. And it was so interesting for me. And also, I got to be quite honest. Reuben, I was taken aback because I wanted to talk to Daryl about the conversation and about how important it was and impactful. And the audience that was there, Daryl didn't have any idea what I was talking about. And you know what? He laughed.
Yeah, that's all you can do at that point, right?
Yeah, he was like, "Come on, man." Yeah, I was like, "Wow, that is it. It is just so interesting to me." And how do you think the connection is actually made? I know you've mentioned frequency. It's like dialing in on a radio, right? And I get that,
right?
But how do you think the connection is made? And what do you think the distance is? You know what I mean? Are we going to another galaxy, another star system? Is it something that is just in the ether of the universe, and it just happens to be here next to you and I right now?
Right. I mean, you've heard the term "time is an illusion," right? That's sort of, we hear that all the time, and it literally is. So, outside of our perception of what reality is, let's say behind the veil, so to say, things aren't localized, aren't limited through space, time, and gravity. So we're not we don't have to, there is not, the things don't work in a higher dimensional realm, fifth dimension, and even Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku talk about this. Things don't run in a linear sense. So you can literally go from, think about your life being born as a baby to the end. And that, when we think of that as a linear progression, but in a higher dimensional realm, you could literally go to any point of your life as a baby, you can experience that and experience yourself as a junior high school student or an old man. And that's how these higher dimensional beings can perceive reality, because they're they're beyond this limited version of the non-linear sense of reality. And not to say that our version of it isn't real, it is, but it is, and there's the non-limited version. And as we're moving our collective consciousness, and, Earth is moving through space and the sun is traveling around the galaxies, and there's all this action happening on the linear sense, simultaneously we're evolving into a higher frequency vibration, like I was saying, Tesla says, and we're able to access these states of being, these higher dimensional states, much more easily. And that's when we're actually starting to perceive, and you have more people, doing yoga and going to meditation, and then it's these altered states of consciousness, like channeling, that we're able to actually experience and see the world from a non-linear perspective. So where are they at? It could be anywhere. In a linear sense, they point, like I said, they point to Pleiades, or they point to, Sirius or Arcturus, to let us get a sort of a frequency signature of the vibration of what it is. Mm-hmm. So when we bring that into our heart and we can feel that, we can vibrate at that frequency, then space and time doesn't matter. We're right there. We're experiencing what it's like to be an Arcturian, or connect to Arcturian signals, because they also are non-local with space-time, and we can connect to different versions of time of them. We can connect to an earlier version of their race where they still had physicalized experiences like we're having now, but much more higher technology and understanding of what reality is, so they can traverse their consciousness still in the physical form, but in a much broader sense, sort of like Bashar. Bashar is a physicalized ET. Many of these consciousnesses have already evolved beyond the physical form, and they're just and you can tap into those versions of those consciousnesses that are already evolved. Again, because time isn't linear how we see it, we can just simply tap into, this is the higher evolved version of the species at this space-time space signature. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does, because everybody, when I say everybody, I mean everybody that's listening to you right now, or that listens to somebody channel like Rob or Daryl. Roxanne is fascinating.
Oh, Roxanne.
Yeah, she's great. So the answer that everybody wants to hear is that linear pointing of the arrow, right? Where's it coming from?
Sure.
Any other answer, nobody even wants to consider. They don't want to hear it. They want something definitive.
Yeah, well, that's what we're moving out of. We're moving out of this definitive, fixed ideas, because the universe is unlimited in its construct, and we understand that through quantum physics, the double slit experiment, spooky action at a distance. We're understanding how limitless reality is. We just have to open up our perspectives, our hearts, our ideas of what is reality. And the more we can do that, the more we can settle into a less limited reality. And I think, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're figuring out that we are creating it as we're going along. And to do that, we have to just tell better stories.
Well, right. No, right. And there's another part to this that I find fascinating, that most don't have an understanding of, and it's this. When you say the Pleiades, when you're talking about Orion or Orion's Belt or the Seven Sisters or Zeta Reticuli, the Pleiades, when you start talking about these concepts of these star clusters, these we look at them from the beginning of time in a two-dimensional space, right? Absolutely. We're looking up to the stars, we're looking up to the night sky, and it's like a drawing on a sheet of paper. The distance between these stars amongst themselves in a depth and in a 3D and 4D time construct is a ginormous amount of space. It's not like the pin on a map. You can't define that when you're talking about Orion's Belt or the Sevens. You're not doing it that way. And the Pleiades aren't, like North Hollywood, Sherman Oaks, Burbank, right, and Van Nuys, where they're right next to each other. That's not the case, is it? So you can't do a linear line to that because it is separated by trillions of miles.
Right, and if you one way I look at it is, and this is why I say that the language is really letting us understand it better. So when we understand that the frequencies, and what I'm sort of trying to do a little bit in the show is sort of create a thesaurus of these different ET races, and really what I'm doing is just redefining with new language what has already existed, these archetypal energies that have already existed in our storytelling and history. And different ideas for, different, from the Bible to modern day, comic books. These archetypal energies exist everywhere we look, and we're putting this ET label on it in order to connect to that energy and go even deeper, and maybe even have a physicalized experience with these archetypes. As opposed to just being part of our storytelling. And I think that's what the ET story is ultimately, is really redefining these archetypes and understanding them and connecting with them in a new and unique way and experience that we haven't been able to do on this planet for thousands of years.
And ultimately, what do you think that we should do with this information? Because there is a consistency with what is coming through, and I hear that, right? I hear a very consistent message, and then I hear things that directly conflict with each other. So how do we dilute and connect the dots and come to one conclusion?
Well, the Shar says it best. I think the number one the number one thing to do is to follow your excitement, and for each of us that's going to be unique and different. And to do that to the best of our ability, without any insistence on the outcome, is sort of what he says a lot. So many of the beings have basically, in fact, I think all of them that I've interviewed basically say the same thing. Maybe some different language, some different words. He kind of wraps it up in a nice little, easy to quote sentence there. But essentially, follow our passions, follow our joy, and not having judgment on others, and for having a different type of belief system or a different idea of what reality is, or following a different ET. And if we can sort of merge those together, then we naturally will follow the path that we've been designed to follow as a piece of the universe, a piece of God, or a piece of a sentient being, navigating this reality. I think we all have been born with unique pieces of the puzzle to the greater puzzle, and we've sort of told our society has told us, and we've bought into it, that we need to all be doctors and lawyers, and and maybe some other things here or there. But we're finding out really quickly that's not working very well. But the world can only take so many doctors and lawyers. then by following our passions, by following that unique piece of the puzzle that we are, it's going to fit much, much better. And then we can support each other in doing that, even though it's different, and it's okay to be different. And I think that's where the whole diversity thing is coming from, is that we can really embrace that. And that's where the true evolution, that's where we're all going to become sort of interconnected, telepathic, and then we'll shoot to the stars and beyond.
Let's take our break right here, Reuben. Great conversation. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, and we'll be right back. More with Reuben Langdon, interviews with Ed. After this short break, I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. All right, I'm back. I had to go and do stuff. Sorry about that. Sorry for the delay. Wow, I've never actually done that before. But this is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Reuben Langdon. Reuben, I was off tending to technical issues.
I have those a lot.
Yes. Off having to do it. There's apparently there's some buffering issues that we never deal with, but it's nothing on our end, right? It's nothing. Everything is fine, and all of the data and everything is cool, and no drops and full stream and everything is cool. There's something going on out there on the internet, and it happens once in a while, right? And it's it's just one of those
I think
things.
we're in that Mercury retrograde people talk about. I don't know the full details of it, but I've been having, we had our little mic issue earlier, and then you're having your mic issue, or you're having your buffering issue, and I've heard some other mishaps going on with technical things. I guess that's, people like to blame the Mercury retrograde.
It's always, man, I'm tired of Mercury retrograde. Okay,
Is it ever not retrograde?
Man, it's always, we're never out of it, apparently.
Exactly.
If you listen to everybody. But I want to talk, continuing the conversation, I want to talk about the physics side of this. I'm talking about the pure science level of the numbers of what we are dealing with today, because the numbers are crazy. And what I mean by that is this. Just if you go back, the first exoplanet discovered in 1995, right? And a couple of years later, there was 5, at the end of 2000, there was 15, and here we are in 2020, and the numbers that astrophysicists and astronomers and scientists are throwing around today, that just in our Milky Way, not the universe, the Milky Way, of which the Milky Way is the tiniest slice of the universe that you can imagine. All right, because we're talking about 500 billion galaxies or 1 trillion galaxies, and each one of those galaxies having 1 trillion stars, and each one of those having 1 or 2 trillion planets. And so you get to this number that is so, but if you just look at our Milky Way alone, today we are now talking about and referenced 20 billion, 30 billion, 40 billion rocky Earth-like planets in the Goldilocks zone in just our Milky Way. So when we are talking about channeling these different species, you referenced a mantis being, there is an infinite amount of mantis being species out there.
Yeah,
right?
Because you're what you just said, those numbers is, remember, that's just one dimension that we can see. And there are beyond what we can even imagine, see, use the different gamma, the spectrums of ultraviolet, gamma, all these different, the color spectrums that we can sense with other equipment. But our visual eyes, it's such a minute, tiny spectrum of what we even know exists. And then beyond that, obviously, we're still discovering things. So basically, there is life everywhere, all around us right now, going beyond the linear sense. So it really is just a flavor. The mantis is just a flavor. It's like an ice cream flavor. You go to Baskin Robbins, there's so many flavors. And you mix it up and you get these different flavors, and that's what the hybrids, that's what we are. We're a hybrid race. and you get, it's really how many different flavors can you make with the existing flavors, and remember that's been going on over and over and over for eons, and that's why there's so much life here, because it really it's been going forever, and there's different states, like I was saying before, different states of evolution where some of these flavors have figured out how to work together really nicely and decided to actually, I'm seeing one of the questions here is, what do they get out of this, right? So it's kind of like, once you've sort of figured out the universe, you're kind of, and I mean, I say this in terms, but like for us, once somebody that I know, once you're well off, you kind of want to go and do some philanthropy work, right? You want to go help the rest of the world that's trying to figure it out and go through some issues. So I think what they get out of it is that feeling of help, helping somebody, giving. It feels good to give. And if you have a lot to give, then you want to give as much as you can. And I think that's just the natural law of the universe. Obviously, here on this planet, we haven't fully all come to that conclusion, but many of us are. There are many, well-off giving people, and I think as we evolve more, we'll sort of all fall into that camp. It's just, if you have extra, you go help those that don't have the extra. Anyway,
now,
that's sort of answering the question. Yeah.
Right. And I was listening I talk about Brian Greene a lot, and I talk about Sean Carroll a lot, and Brian Cox, and all these rock star physicists out there, and these quantum guys that talk about the universe and multi-dimensions and multi-worlds and all of these things. And they all discuss ETs and the prospect of alien life out there. But Brian Greene said the other day, why would now? And by saying what I'm about to say, I have seen things in the sky. I know that things are visiting us, and I am convinced of that fact. But Brian Greene said the other. He goes, why would an intelligent species out there that can travel the stars and conquer the speed of light have any interest in us? Why would they give a crap about planet Earth? Why would they give us advice? Why would they do these things? And you have to respect that comment somewhat. Why would they?
I can play devil's advocate.
The devil may cry advocate?
The devil may cry advocate would be, if you had the ability to travel through space and time and to go visit past versions of yourself, would you not go back and visit those versions and give them nuggets to make better choices in their lives?
Well, then does that, if that is the case, then why would you want to alter the future? If it's past versions,
you're not necessarily altering the future, because again, Jimmy, you're thinking linearly. So whatever change you make to the past, it's not going to affect the present. It's going to affect a different version of the present, but not your present, because they aren't as interconnected as you think. If you go back in time and visit your 10-year-old version of you, you're creating a new timeline of yourself. So that is on its own independent line of evolution, where the 10-year-old version of you met the future version of you and started a new path.
But doesn't that eliminate now? But that eliminates free will. Are you suggesting that? Well, hold on. This is great. I love the conversation. So let's just stay right here. It's just you and I on my back patio right now, Reuben. Okay, all right.
I love it.
And and the back patio is a special place, and you know that. So, which is this? Are you suggesting that the future versions of us that would be here to help us also went through the advice of the future versions of themselves? Or wouldn't they want us to have the free will of non-interference, right? The prime directive, where we need to go through these.
What's happening.
Right. Well, we can't have it both ways.
That's why they're not landing on the White House lawn. That's why we are having this non-interference, and that's why we, as the individual version of us, has to in some cases, this happens a lot. People get down on their hands and knees and pray for a sign. Bam, the light opens in the sky, and there's the future version of you saying, "You called." But until we ask for it, we have to invite it, and that's our free will. We have to invite it in. Now, some of these beings are very manipulative and are able to make us invite them in without proper, with going through due process in a sense. And that's some of the more manipulative, negative beings that, I'm sure you've covered on your show.
Right.
But I think in a sense, we are going through this non-interference, prime directive type experience right now. And I have to initiate contact. And we're doing that, with the C5 experiences on the physical level, but individually, every time I go into meditation, every time I go into the dream state, when I set the intention, many of us don't know the power of intention, so we forget to do it. And then that's when we get the boogeyman in the closet. But if we set the intention and basically tune our channel like a channeler to go into a specific frequency of, what is the best, sort of, I put it in these terms, what is, this is without the insistence on the outcome, because if you want to say, I need to connect with ET and it has to be this version and blah, 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 blah. So, but you simply you get rid of all that and you just simply go with, okay, I want to connect with the highest version of myself or other versions of myself, other ETs or whatever it is, that can aid in the best for my evolutionary process, which the little me, Reuben, may not necessarily know, but the big me, the bigger, higher version, the big soul version of me, Reuben, absolutely knows, what it wants and knows how to navigate this universal Earth experience much better than I do. And that's when I ask for that guidance, and I ask for the signs, I ask for the synchronicities, and then it delivers. And I have to say, since I've been on this path asking these questions since 2013 is when I started these interviews, integrating a lot of the teachings that I've learned through these, it's real, man. When you ask and when you surrender, ask. It's good to have desires, and you hear the gurus, don't have desires, don't do, don't lust for anything, no. Have desires, it's fine, but don't have the expectations or the insistence that it has to happen or unfold a certain way. Desires are actually, that's what gets that's following our excitement. We need the desires. That's our compass to get us on the direction where we need to go. But then relaxing into surrendering on whatever happens, whatever the universe gives me, then what happens is your vision opens up and you can see the synchronicities. You can see different things. Oh, this rabbit or this thing ran out in front of my car, so I slammed on my brakes, and then 10 feet ahead, a tree falls down the middle of the road where I probably would have been if that rabbit hadn't ran in front of me. That's an extreme case. I've had something like that happen, but that's an extreme case. But these signs are always showing up in our lives, and we just have to pay attention.
What is
and that's the subtlety?
Yeah, it is. It is. And what is so interesting about that, what interests me, is that the concept of time, just the general concept, everybody out there seems to think that they know what time is or what time isn't. Right? They've got a total grip on we're in the now, or time is everything, or time is omni, or time isn't that, time is this, or right, where the truth is, and this is where I think that I've got a pretty good grip on the concept of time, more so than anybody else.
Okay.
And that includes the physicists of the world, right? And the gurus of the world and everything else. This is what everybody has to understand, is that time, no matter what, as it moves in any direction, in linear sense or not, is always different. As it moves in any direction, backwards, forward, sideways, up and down, as you move through space-time, you are moving through ripples of gravity. You're moving through large masses of stars and star systems, right? And at that point, time is altered. As you move out beyond that, through the masses and past the masses of galaxies, time is altered. Right? So you have the macro and the micro versions of the altering of space-time and time. There are no consistencies of it. And anybody that wants
the only constant is change.
That's it. That's it. Anybody that wants to tell me, hey, but dude, you don't get it. No, wait a minute. You don't understand. Well, you don't understand crap. It's really
all
the truth.
Great sages of the world, and even the scientists, they all say that. The only constant is change, really, and that's why that's why we're in the times we're in, is because we're going through this massive change on the planet, and it's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
It truly is. It truly is. And early on at the beginning of the show, when I asked you about the UFO hypothesis and how your views have changed on what ET could be and what we are seeing in the skies today, and it's certainly gone through an evolutionary change, but we're still seeing the consistencies too as well, where we are seeing actual craft, right, structures with engines in it. So we're seeing both. Sure. And is that because
I don't think.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, the question is this. When you're at a CE5 event, or anybody is out there looking at the night sky, and you may see 2, 3, 4, or a dozen things in a single evening, chances are those dozen things that you have seen don't even know each other. Right? They're not from the same. They're not from the same parts of the universe, are they?
That is, yes, I think that's true. It's funny, the C5s have evolved for me and the groups that I go into. Most of us now are no longer even concerned with the lights of the sky. It's just like, oh, look at that. Most of us are actually having deep, profound experiences going on the ships. In a sort of an astral or a meditative state, dreamlike thing. So it's not like their bodies are lifted up and they're on the ships. But the sharing afterward, they're much more in depth than just sort of having a meditation and visualizing some things. People are going full on, getting full on lessons and detailed information from their trips on the ships. And then we get a little physical light in the sky as a little confirmation. And then others see it and we can sort of describe what we saw or whatever. And, oh, yeah, that was that. And then you have that one or two people that were like, oh, I was on the ship and I went in this room. And the other person said, well, I saw the same room. And they start describing the details of the room and they're matching up. So the C5 experiences evolved. Just that alone, I think, is getting us closer to this actual physical contact. Again, some people are having the physical contact, but I don't think collectively we can all have the physical contact until collectively we, the majority of us actually believe it. I subscribe to, the Bashar and many others talk about believing is seeing, not seeing is believing. You have to have a framework for the whatever to exist first in your consciousness and your beingness for it to actually show up.
And it has to be that way. And I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. It has to be. The reason why things phase out into our consciousness or into our visual sense or even into our dimension in our world is because it's a chance meeting of the frequencies. The only way to get
meeting of the frequencies.
Yeah, because, and I'll tell you why. The reason why we aren't able necessarily to pick up on other frequencies, other television broadcasts from the stars, right? And radio signals, is because we would have to connect with a civilization that is on our same time scale, where everything is at the same speed. You have to grasp that concept for a second. There's a reason why, these fast radio bursts or these radio signals that may be out there are just beyond our ability to see. It could just be noise to us, right? It could just be background interference, it's just not.
I use this example. Sorry, I use this example. So, back, who's the Integratron guy, the old guy from the 60s who had all the UFO events out there? What was his name?
George Van Tassel.
Yes, George Van Tassel. So you have George Van Tassel, many others from that era in the 60s described their contact experiences from Venetians, right? From the planet, from Venus. These beings would come down in the craft, and they had, the slick jumpsuits and the blue hides and the green, whatever, the sort of the Palladian-ish beings. And you have different people describing Palladians. But over the period of time, the types of beings that it seems like humanity's interacting with change and differ. And I think that goes back to what you're saying with, yes, we're having different beings from different time periods interacting with humanity to help us resolve, these evolutionary hiccups or jumps that we're going through individually and collectively. So yes, the beings we interact with are going to evolve. Right now, you don't see that many future humans. Maybe you can ask Sergeant Pennison tomorrow, because I know he doesn't believe they were ET. He thinks they were future humans. But I believe we do have future humans, near future humans interacting with us, but on a very limited scale. But you have to ask, well, why wouldn't they, if they had the ability to travel in time, why wouldn't they interact more with us? Why are we having more ET contact? And I think that's just because of where we're at with our evolution. In the future, maybe we will be interacting more with future versions of ourselves or other ET races, different ET races from other parts of the universe that we don't even know yet. But they're here to help us because that's more of a resonance of where we are at with our specific evolution.
And I would think that if and I'm going to talk to Jim about this tomorrow for sure. But when there are so many versions of time travel, but most people think of the concept like H.G. Wells, right? Time machine, mechanical device. You are physically moving your body to another point in time for an experience, and you are there in the physical. There's a danger with that. There's two dangers. One, the Earth is orbiting the sun. And so you would have to know exactly where the Earth is going to be at that moment in time and where you are going to be on the Earth in order to arrive there if you are making a physical move. That's a very difficult concept and a technical leap that I don't think that we have a grasp of. But then there's there's another consideration here. And the other consideration is the universe is balanced. It knows how many particles are there at any given time. If you go and remove yourself from the now physically and move to another point in time, those particles, those atoms are now missing in the universe now and are placed in another point in time in the universe where the universe is not expecting sudden new particles and atoms to appear. It's going to upset the actual balance of the universe. And I'm talking about universal destruction, like a universal black hole implosion. I don't think that changing atoms from one point of the universe in time and moving them to another point is a zone that you want to scientifically go into. You don't know what the catastrophic results of that would be. You would have to do it in another way, another timeline, or not actually your physical self.
Well, my take is that every time we do make those, so for example, we can look at an ET craft sort of phasing in and then phasing out of our existence. You know, I've seen them literally show up and then disappear.
I have too.
And my take is in the future, and we're starting to do this now with sort of 3D scanning, but can you imagine a 3D scanner that can scan everything in the room, but not just the physical, the way the light's hitting it, but down to the molecular structure, what every atom is and its placement and everything else. And, you know, the frequency and vibration of, so to say, like in my room right now with my voice coming out and these things happening at this time. And I don't think there's any other space-time now moment that has everything configured. It's sort of its own universal thumbprint. It is right now, and then right now, and right now. We all have these unique time stamp thumbprints based on all of the elements in the now moment. And this is my belief from my research, is that these ET craft have the ability, like a super AI computer, that could actually project these, we would say coordinates, but it's actually like a 3D printer or a projection of all of this data that has all of the signature moments of the frequency, and it projects it, and then, like Bob Lazar talks about, it literally just falls in, like gravity waves, falls forward into this projected hologram that it created. And that is how these crafts sort of show up in our reality without breaking the space-time continuum, so to say, because they're in their own gravity wave bubble, so they're still independent of our reality, but they're visually able to show up because they can interact in that sense. And then they have the ability to, again, sort of project the version of their reality that they need to get back to, right, that they came from.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break right here. We're going into overtime. Because I know you're in lockdown and you've got nothing to do tomorrow. So just stay right there. Stay right there, Reuben. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Reuben Langdon. What a great conversation. We're talking about his new series, Interviews with Ed, Extra Dimensionals. We'll pick up where we're leaving off right now when we come back after this short break on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our conversation tonight is with Reuben Langdon. I almost channeled Rob, Reuben. I almost went there. Wouldn't that
Fade to Black coffee?
Wouldn't that have been funny if I just popped out with Rob G? So this is the thing. Are you a Frank Zappa fan?
I can't say I'm a huge fan. I appreciate the music, but I'm very very electronica in my electronic music. I heard all the things Frank Zappa talk earlier. I appreciate it. I know he was made some amazing contributions to the music scene.
You need obviously, to. You know what I would do. You know what I would do if I was you. Take out a pen. I want you to write down three things. I want you to write down Joe's Garage, Acts 1 and 2.
Joe's Garage.
Acts 1 and 2. That's the first album. Then I want you to write down One Size Fits All. Okay? Okay. Now, those two albums, I want you to, and one more. Chic.
All right.
Chic as in Arab. Chic.
Okay.
Your Booty. YOURBOUTI, I think it is what it is. Chic Your Booty. It's one word. Okay, those three albums. Sweet. I want you to listen to those albums as you edit tomorrow. Okay?
All right.
You're in the middle of an edit session, right? You're in the middle of an edit session.
Yep.
So I want you to listen to those 3 albums and then get back to me. Okay?
All right, you got it.
Now, I'm talking about a paradigm shift in your existence is going to occur.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm open to it.
I know you are. Now let's get back to the conversation. You brought up Jim Peniston, which I was going to do about a half hour ago, and then you brought him up at the end of the show, and I thought that was pretty interesting that the universe reached out to us like that. Jim Peniston, with all of the conversation about Rendlesham and Bentwaters and Woodbridge, about the ET aspect of this, and I'm still on that side of the fence, by the way. But Jim, against all odds and all of the pressure and interference from everybody there, not only the other witnesses that were there, but the other researchers that have been looking into this case from the beginning, Jim has gone against the grain and said, hey, we need to pump the brakes here. I touched the craft. I got a download. It's not ET. That they told me that they were us from the future. And that went against the grain, didn't it? But he has stuck to it over the years, and this is going to be the central part of our conversation tomorrow night. But how interesting is that for Jim to stick to what he believes the experience was for him, right?
Well, he should know more than anybody. I mean, he's the one who got the downloads, right? He touched the craft. I know Burroughs was also, affected. Many people were affected by it, but he seemed to had gotten the closest. I believe him. And before, when I first, when I was producing the citizen hearing, I thought for sure too, it's just ETs. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But but the more I've expanded my visual idea of what all this is, it absolutely makes actually more sense that it would be us from the future in that way.
Yeah, and you've analyzed, of course, not only going back to the citizens hearing, but you've looked into this and other UFO cases over the years. And the one thing that I find interesting, I want to know if you've come to the same conclusion, is that when you speak to anybody there and that was there and listen to their testimony, everybody's got a different experience when it comes to Rendlesham. And I find that very interesting, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, there's certain key things that add up, but yeah, there's, this going back to this, idea you were talking before the break about how everything is in constant change and constant flux. And then somebody in the chat said relativity, right? The Einstein's relativity. We're all seeing the world through a unique lens. And then when you start adding extra dimensional, whether it's a being or us from the future or different artifacts, that lens is going to get very distorted because it is so different. The space-time jump or the frequency, our unique frequency. I mean, we have a hard time, telling how a traffic accident happens, even when there's like 5 different cameras on it, where we try to retell that story, let alone introduce some kind of extra dimensional being or effect or whatever that's not part of our normal paradigm. We're all going to have a very different take on what it is and the feelings we have. And that's just the way it is. It's to be expected. And like I said, until we all collectively can start to first agree that ETs exist, which we're getting there slowly, until then, can we actually start having the experience more regularly in a linear sense, where we have the same being show up over and over, and can have these communications with them. Until then, it's the Wild Wild West. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that's the way it is. It's the construct of reality.
Many years ago, I went through a couple of months of speaking to, I'm not going to name names, but I'll say this in a general sense, speaking to everybody that was involved in Rendlesham, including the original journalist and everybody that was involved from just about day one. and everybody there, right? And trying to attempt to get everybody together and let's just talk this out. Let's just talk it out.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to happen. I could not believe, and I said to every single one of them, "Come on, man! You guys were all there over those 3 days. You guys went through this experience together. It's okay to have different memories or different experiences, but don't you think it's best for the community to just come? Nah, man, nope." It was like, wow.
Well, that's kind of like, that's why we have such wide, opinions in the UFO arena, and not to discredit or tell anybody that they're wrong. I truly think that we all are experiencing things the way we're experiencing because it is such a vast, big world of beyond this world. The unseen veil. It's infinite in its possibilities, and going back to the storytelling idea, this is one of the reasons why I've chosen to focus on these channelers and the story that's coming through in this manner, is because, I said this, I put this out the other day, but I honestly can't think of a better story for humanity. Like if there is one, in a positive sense, right? If there is one where we all win, where, discrimination and judgment of others goes away, and it is, a lot of people are like, well, that's very utopian. That's like never going to happen.
Right.
But that's where I put my focus. And I see it as a possibility, as it not being a possibility, at least I'm leaving the door open so that can happen, as opposed to shutting the door to that reality. So I like to tell the story through my lens in picking these channelers that also are, and like Adam Apollo and also these others that are telling the same story.
Right.
So we can get closer to that, because the more I think we focus on that, it's my understanding how the construct of reality works is it all exists. It's all there. All these different versions of the Rendlesham Forest, they are true realities to focus on. I know it's a big thing to wrap our head around, but when we understand that we're changing 1 billion times a second, every second, individually, and then collectively, think of, multiply that billion by another 7 billion every second. There's all these doorways to other dimensional realities and experiences. The butterfly effect, where you move one thing here, the whole thing changes, right? I think that's how it works. And I think the more we can collectively focus on a specific path of positivity and uplifting each other as opposed to doom and gloom, then that's the direction we'll go.
Even though what you're asking for is a complete impossibility, right?
Well, see, not impossible. I mean, it's a highly unlikely.
Yeah, highly unlikely, but physics says anything is possible. So
anything's possible. So let's go. Let's go there. Let's go impossible.
I share your vision in that. I truly do, and I speak about it so often, and I realize the goal may be always just out of reach, but you have to do that. Yes. You have to go into that direction. Yes. And in that, are you suggesting that you have found your bliss? Is this your happiness?
Jimmy, I have not been any more happy. I'm the happiest now in my life that I've ever been. And it's a really awesome place to be doing the things I love, to be in gratitude every day and appreciate, my health. I know there's many who aren't as fortunate, but I have to say I've been in some unfortunate situations, and I've been able to work out of them following these guidelines, the formula, which Bashar likes to say. I'm following the formula of following my excitement, no insistence on the outcome, just doing what I enjoy and what I love, and doing it with integrity, of course. And it's been my guiding light to lead me to where I am now, which is, again, I can't say it. This is the happiest moment. I'm in constant bliss, the happiest moments of my life. And I've had some pretty highlighted moments in my life.
Yes, you have, my friend. Yes, you have. And for anybody out there that goes to a conference and you single out Reuben, you're going to see him. He's got a camera crew. He's documenting. He's interviewing, and your interest in this and trying to find answers is first and foremost in your life. And when you find that bliss, that's the most important part. And people need to see that side of you because it is genuine. You are out there really getting it done. But I want to get back to your point. Is this community, is ufology the community? Is it like the barbershop, right? Where this is the place where we are supposed to be able to share our experiences, no matter how out there they may be for somebody else to listen to. This is the place where we can come and share and without fear.
I think it's not quite that. I think it could be, and it should be, because somebody's going to resonate. There's something for everybody out there. And just because what I'm saying may not resonate with the other people, and what other people are saying may not resonate with everyone, that's okay. What a boring world we'd have if we all, spoke the same language, ate the same foods, spilled the same story about ufology. Like, that would be boring. It's exciting because it is the barbershop in a sense. And if we can allow it, the more we can allow it to be the barbershop, and not jump on everybody's case when they have a different idea, I think the more exciting it'll be, and the more fun we'll have.
I agree with that. I totally agree. And then we have the other side of the fence, which is like the series Interviews with Ed. Because, hold on, hear me out. Hear me out for a second.
Yeah, I am.
Because for those out there that may have heard of channeling, most people have never heard of Jane Roberts. Certainly outside of ufology, nobody's heard of, outside of the awakening community, nobody's heard of Jane Roberts. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows what a channeler is. We're talking about circus acts. That's the way that they would look at something like this. But for those that would see, or that haven't seen Interviews with Ed, but they go and watch it, now you're going to have to present your case as to why they need to consider this as part of our reality. How do you do that? Right? We're not in the barbershop now. We are going way out there. Interviews with Ed isn't for everybody. This isn't a Project Blue Book on History Channel, right? This is a whole nother concept.
It's soon becoming, though. It's soon becoming. It was actually, I don't know about season 2 right now, but season 1 last year when it came out was the number 1 watched Gaia show at the time. So there's a lot of people that are resonating with this story.
But how do you speak to somebody with a very limited reality, right? That you are going to present this series to them, and this is why they need to pay attention to it, and again to accept it as part of their reality on this planet. How do you do that? Well,
I'd say first, go listen to Jimmy Church and go listen to all the wonderful guests he has, and then if you're still curious after listening to my spiel and everything, then go there. But it is, you're right, it's not for everyone. It is sort of a quantum leap in your typical belief structure. So I don't really want to put it on anybody who's not ready for it, because if you're what resists persists kind of thing. You don't want to put it on anybody who's not ready to listen to it, because they'll only find fault with it or try to pick it apart. And I honestly say there's very limited science out there. And Daryl's documentary, I think he talked about on your show, he did an EEG meter, and I show that in my series as well, where he's doing the brain waves.
Yep.
He's the only guy that's done that. I plan to do that with some of the other channelers in the future. But really, that's the only real science we have on this. Other than that, it's, looking at ancient traditions from shamanism to other, channeling is not a new thing. We've had channelers throughout the history of time. And automatic writing, conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh, it's a big part of our collective consciousness, and we are paying attention. You have many very famous channelers out there, and people are the YouTube videos. You can just look at them. But to take it seriously, it's really about what's being said. Does it resonate? Does it serve you? Does it serve your belief system? This is another tool that I've learned from the Bashar material is if it's not serving you, then get rid of it. So if the messages and if the idea of channeling is not your thing, you know what? You're fighting the wrong fight. And I don't need to be fighting that fight either. It's like, go get some other material, go seek, watch the other shows of the other guests that you have on, listen to Jim's story. For me, I fell into this. I worked my way up to it because I had sought out all the other information from all the researchers, and I got to a point where I couldn't go any further because there was the puzzle pieces. I had all the puzzle pieces I could, but there was still a lot of holes, and I didn't have the complete picture. And when at one of those ET Media meetup groups, one of the ones that you came to, Wendy Kennedy, a channeler, she lives in Santa Monica. She was there, and afterwards we were chatting, and she's, I was talking about the abduction scenario and what's going on there, and she said it's a soul contract. And that was like a magic light bulb, because I had talked to probably by that time 100 or so abductees, and hearing all their experiences and the trauma, and some of them good, some of them bad, and different things. But when I heard from Wendy Kennedy, it's a soul contract, I was like, that's the missing piece. That's what I need to follow. And I followed that stream. And then when I started talking to these channelers, they started filling in all the other missing pieces of the puzzle to this bigger puzzle that I had started working on through all my other research in ufology. And to date, it still feels like this is the most complete puzzle that I can, or the complete amount of puzzle pieces that I can assemble with what we have available to us through our modern technology and meeting people and discussions and all this stuff. I'm not saying it's the only puzzle, the most complete that there is. It's just in my reality and in my research, this is what I've come to, and this is what I'm sharing with the world. But I'm sure there's many other avenues and different puzzle pieces that I still don't have that other people may have. When I met Adam Apollo, who you had on the show, he seemed to have a lot of the puzzle pieces that I'd been looking towards as far as his unified matrix theory. And that really resonated with me and matched with a lot of the research I'd been doing and the questions I've been asking the ETs.
When, I get Rob, I get Jane, I get Daryl. I totally can digest what is happening. But, like the barbershop, right? No matter what that conversation is going down in the UFO barbershop, somebody walks in the door and brings up channeling. That's one of the things that almost goes taboo, even in the UFO community. And then, even for me, but then you go and you see Bashar and you hear Bashar in person and you go through that and you listen, there's something going on there. I mean, something real, something tangible. And we have to back up and say, okay, you know what? This is just something else that we need to collectively just put in the pot here. It's that miso soup that you were referring to earlier. And I'm being very serious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it is, Lee Harris, he's sort of an intuitive channel. He's been on the show, my show, as far as channeling, the Z's. But he does a lot of self-help work, and he's kind of like a Tony Robbins kind of guy, doing public seminars, but also independent, lifting people up.
Right.
And even in that world, channeling is sort of a taboo thing. But he says he keeps the channeling. It's like it's part of his toolkit. It's like on his tool belt. He has to have that there. To ignore that would be a disservice to the other work that he's doing. And I feel, in a sense, with ufology, and for me, because that's kind of where I started, is the channeling thing is, it's like a toolkit. It's like a part of my toolkit that I can use to help me guide me through this other, the barbershop. I can actually do a better job talking at the barbershop now because I have this toolkit. Obviously, I can't always bring that tool into the shop and use it, but having it in the background it's a nice, safe thing that helps me navigate this wacky world we're in.
Yeah, you're right. Years ago, and when I say years ago, I'm going like 10, 15 years ago, I listened to Bashar, some bootleg tape that made it onto the internet, right? It was called Bashar on Time Travel. I have gone back and tried to find it since then. It's gone. It's not out there. It was like 15, 20 minutes long. But that 20 minutes of Bashar on Time Travel was a game changer. It blew my mind, and nothing in it had anything to do with any concept of time travel, science or science fiction based, that we've ever heard today. And it really moved me. And so you have to go back and say, where is that information coming from? This idea, these concepts, because they're not based on anything that has been discussed in the past on this planet from any intellectual, and there's where we have, whoa, I just sneezed. I don't have coronavirus. I don't have coronavirus.
Are you wearing a mask?
Yeah.
I'm going to find you.
I just sneezed. Came out of nowhere. See, that was Bashar. That was Bashar reaching out. Hey, Reuben.
Yes.
Reuben, you are the best, my man. I know you're working on a lot of projects and you're getting some stuff ready. I don't want to talk about that now, but when you get this finished, you got to come back on the show and let's do the launch right here. Will you do that for me?
Oh, that would be awesome. Yes, love to.
Reuben, you're the best, man. Get back to work. You've got 3 albums to listen to tomorrow, all Frank Zappa. Yes. I'll talk to you the day after. Okay, man. I'll talk to you.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Take care.
Reuben Langdon. All of Reuben's links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. We've got them posted right there. And I know the project that he is working on right now, and I'm very excited about what he's about to drop on all of us. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here on this very program, Jim Peniston. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.